At dinner, my parents said, "You work while your sister enjoys. Don't like it? Leave." So I did, and they had no idea what would come next. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Rowan Hale. I'm 28 years old, and for the past 4 years, I have been living with my parents while working 2 jobs to help them with bills. I was trying to save money for my own place and pay off some student loans, but somehow the bills at home always grew, and I always felt like I owed more. Whenever something went wrong, the answer was the same: Rowan will handle it. At first, I didn't mind. I figured I was doing what any daughter would do. My dad had health problems a while back, and my mom struggled to keep up with the house. I started working at a financial office during the day and waitressing at night. I'd come home exhausted, but I kept telling myself that it was only temporary. I pictured myself building a future, saving money, and finally moving out. I held on to that thought every time I clocked in for another shift. Then there was Nessa, 23, my younger sister. She didn't have a job, didn't go to school, and didn't pay for anything. Not food, not gas, not anything personal. She spent most days sleeping in late, watching TV, or scrolling on her phone. On weekends, she'd go shopping with our mom and come home with bags of clothes and makeup. They treated her like a delicate princess who couldn't handle anything difficult. I tried to talk to my parents about fairness, about responsibility, but every conversation ended with them defending her. "She's still finding herself," my mom would say. "You're older, you should understand," my dad added. It never mattered how hard I worked, how tired I was, or how much money I put into the house. Nessa always got the special treatment. She never cooked, never cleaned, never helped. I'd walk through the door after a 14-hour day and find a pile of dishes in the sink and laundry on the floor. When I asked for help, Nessa would just shrug and say, "That's not my problem." Sometimes, late at night, I'd lie awake and wonder if any daughter could be good enough. No matter what I did, they acted like I owed them more. I felt like a guest in my own home, only there to serve a purpose. I kept moving, working, pushing, hoping things would change. I never imagined that one dinner would be the moment everything snapped. I never expected those words. "You work while your sister enjoys. Don't like it? Leave." In that moment, something inside me shifted. They had no idea what they had just pushed me into. I first noticed something strange when I logged into my online banking to check how close I was to my goal for moving out. I had been putting away every extra dollar I could. I didn't buy new clothes, didn't go out, didn't treat myself to anything. That account was my future. But the number on the screen was wrong. It wasn't just a little off. It was missing thousands. My throat tightened. I refreshed the page 3 times, thinking maybe the app was glitching. My stomach felt heavy as I clicked through the transaction history. That's when I saw it, an electronic withdrawal from my savings. A large one, and the memo was clear. Dental specialist. Cosmetic procedure. Paid in full. I stared at it, unable to breathe. I never scheduled anything like that. I felt a wave of disbelief crash against me. My hands shook as I walked down the hallway, trying to keep my voice steady. I found my mother folding towels in the laundry room. "I need to ask you something," I said, holding my phone out. "Did you take money from my savings?" She didn't even look nervous. She didn't even look guilty. She just nodded slightly, as if I had asked her something small. "Yes." Nessa needed work done. You know how sensitive she is about her smile. Sensitive? This wasn't a chipped tooth or emergency care. This was a cosmetic upgrade. A luxury. My voice cracked. "That was my money. I've been saving for a long time." She shrugged. "Family helps family." My chest tightened. Family helps family? I was family too. Why was I the only one expected to sacrifice? Before I could process what she said, Nessa walked in from the hallway, a brand new tote bag swinging from her arm. She flashed a bright grin, her brand new teeth absolutely perfect. "Oh, please," she said, letting out a laugh. "It's not like you were doing anything exciting with it. You're so dramatic." Dramatic. The word echoed in my head, sharp as a slap. I felt like the floor had dropped out beneath me. "I didn't give permission," I whispered. Mom raised an eyebrow. "We didn't think we needed permission. You live here. We are supporting you. It balances out." Balances out. They were speaking as if my savings belonged to them, like my effort didn't matter, like my future didn't matter. Nessa leaned against the counter, still smiling at her reflection in her phone camera. "Don't be weird, Rowan. It was just sitting there. Just sitting there." Those 3 words hit harder than anything else. My dreams weren't just sitting there. I had plans. I had goals. That money represented every night I stayed awake fighting exhaustion. Every morning I pushed myself when I wanted to rest. Every sacrifice. But none of that mattered to them. In their eyes, what belonged to me was simply available for their convenience. That was the moment something inside me hardened. Not anger. Not rage. Clarity. They didn't respect my dreams because they never believed I should have any in the first place. Dinner was supposed to be quick. I wasn't in the mood for long conversations, but my parents insisted we all sit together because it had been a while. The dining table was set like it was a celebration: fresh rolls, roast chicken, and even the good plates. I thought maybe someone had good news. For once I did. I waited until everyone sat down. Dad poured himself iced tea. Mom lit a candle in the center, and Nessa scrolled through her phone with the same bored expression she always wore. I cleared my throat. "I wanted to tell you something," I said. "I got promoted today." I expected at least a smile, maybe a proud look. I wasn't asking for applause, just acknowledgement. Mom blinked at me like she didn't understand the words. Dad chewed slowly, not saying anything. Nessa didn't even look up from her screen. I tried again. "It's a full-time position. Better pay. Benefits. I'll finally be able to." Dad put his fork down with a loud clink. "You sure you can handle that?" he asked. His tone wasn't curious. It was doubtful, like he already made the decision in his head. "I've been handling everything for years," I answered carefully. "This is a big step for me." Nessa finally looked up, rolling her eyes. "Why do you always make everything a big deal? It's just a job. Just a job." I swallowed hard. The room felt tighter. Mom reached over and touched Nessa's hand. "Sweetheart, don't let this stress you. You've already got so much on your mind." So much on her mind? Her biggest responsibility was deciding whether to buy sandals or sneakers. Dad pointed his fork at me. "Your sister deserves a break from pressure. She needs time to enjoy life." I stared at him. "I'm not stopping her from enjoying anything." "That's not the point," he said. "You're older. You should help the family. You always have." Mom nodded, almost proud of the sentence. "Work hard," she said. "Keep things running smoothly. You're good at it." I felt something sharp twist in my chest. I had always done what they asked. I carried the weight of everything. I never complained. And now, when I finally reached something for myself, they treated it like a problem. "I thought you'd be proud," I said quietly. Dad gave a short laugh, not amused at all. "We are proud, but your duty is here. Nessa needs space to enjoy her life without worry." Nessa smirked, tapping her nails on her glass. "Exactly. Why are you making this weird?" I took a breath. "I want a future. I'm building something." Dad leaned back in his chair. "You don't need to focus on yourself right now. You work while your sister enjoys. That's how this family works." I froze. The air left my lungs. Then he added the words that changed everything. "Don't like it? Leave." The sound of those words hit harder than anything I'd ever heard. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like their daughter. I felt like their employee. I didn't argue that night. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. Something inside me went silent. It was the kind of silence that comes when a door finally closes in your heart. I excused myself from the table, walked to my room, and shut the door. I stood there in the dark, letting the words replay over and over. "Don't like it? Leave." It was strange how calm I felt. Not calm like peace, calm like ice. All the noise, all the begging for fairness, all the trying to be enough stopped. I realized I didn't need their permission to start my life. I didn't have to stay where I was treated like a resource instead of a daughter. I turned on my lamp and looked around my room. It wasn't much, just a bed, a desk, and a few boxes I never bothered to unpack years ago because some part of me always knew I wouldn't stay forever. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I opened the closet and pulled out an old duffel bag. I placed it on the bed and began folding clothes. No dramatic slamming of drawers. No tears falling onto shirts. Just steady movements. Sweaters, pants, socks. A few personal items. The bag began to fill. For the first time in a long time, everything I put inside felt like a choice. I didn't have enough money for my own place yet, so I needed to think. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at my phone. One person came to mind, Eli Turner. Eli worked with me at the office. We weren't close, but he was kind. He always asked how my day was without expecting anything in return. He once mentioned having a spare room at his small rental house, but I never imagined I'd need it. I hesitated for a moment, then typed a message. "Hey, I know this is sudden. Do you still have that spare room available?" I held my breath as I watched the typing dots appear. A few seconds later he replied, "Yeah, it's still open. What's going on?" I stared at my half-packed bag. "I just need somewhere temporary. Somewhere quiet." He didn't ask for details. He didn't question me. "You can move in whenever. Pay whatever you can until you get settled." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. His message didn't feel like charity. It felt like someone finally opening a door I'd been banging on for years. That night, after everyone went to bed, I packed the rest. Toothbrush, charger, work files. Every sound felt too loud, the zipper, the floor creaking under my feet, but I kept going. I moved like someone who finally understood her own worth. Near dawn, I slid my bag under the bed so no one would see it. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, knowing this was real. I was leaving. Not because I was unwanted, but because I finally wanted myself. The sky was still dark when I opened my eyes. I hadn't slept at all. I listened to the silence of the house, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant ticking of the hallway clock. Every sound felt sharper, heavier. My packed bag was already waiting near my door. I moved slowly, careful not to wake anyone. I pulled out a small sheet of paper from my notebook. The pen felt cold in my hand as I wrote the only sentence that mattered. You told me to leave. So I am. No extra words. No long explanation. They never listened when I used many words. Maybe they would understand these few. I placed the note on the kitchen counter, right where my mother always set her morning coffee mug. For a moment, I stood there, staring at my own handwriting. It didn't look shaky or uncertain. It looked final. My heart began to thump harder. I knew if I stayed even one more minute, I would talk myself out of leaving. I grabbed the handle of my bag and walked toward the door. Each step felt like walking out of a cage I didn't realize I had been in. When I reached the front door, I paused. The air felt different, as if the world outside held oxygen I had never tasted before. The house behind me held years of being the reliable one, the quiet one, the one who always said yes. But the sidewalk ahead held something I had never been given: choice. I turned the knob slowly. The door creaked, sounding louder than it ever had. I winced but kept moving. The cold morning air hit my skin and made me shiver. Not from fear, from freedom. I stepped outside. For a second, I expected someone to call my name, to stop me, to ask me what I was doing. Nothing. The world was asleep. I walked down the driveway, my shoes crunching lightly against the gravel. At the end of the street, the first hint of sunrise touched the sky. It painted everything in soft shades of pink and early morning blue. Colors I had seen countless times through my bedroom window, but never while stepping into my own future. A rideshare car pulled up to the curb. The driver leaned out the window. "Rowan." "Yes," I said, my voice steady. I slid into the back seat with my bag on my lap. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. The car pulled away, and I didn't look back. I refused to give the house that power. The farther we drove, the lighter I felt. Blocks turned into miles, and miles felt like the distance between who I had been and who I was becoming. My chest rose with a breath I didn't know I had been holding for years. I didn't have a full plan, but I finally had a beginning. For the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. Eli greeted me at the front door of his small rental house the morning I arrived. He didn't ask for details. He didn't offer pity. He simply held the door open and said, "Come on in, Rowan. The spare room is down the hall." His voice was calm, steady, something I hadn't felt at home in a long time. The room was nothing fancy. A bed, a dresser, and a window facing a small fig tree in the yard. But when I set my bag down, the space felt larger than any room I'd ever slept in. For once, no one was monitoring me. There were no expectations, no comments about what I should be doing. I could simply breathe. That first night, I slept deeply. Days turned into weeks. I began to build a routine that belonged only to me. I woke up early, made coffee, and sat at the small kitchen table. Eli would pass by on his way out and say something like, "Big day?" or "You got this." It wasn't much, yet it felt like someone cheering for my existence. For the first time, I started a budget. I wrote down every expense. I learned how to split my income, part for savings, part for rent, part for groceries. I never realized how powerful it felt to decide where my money went, without anyone draining it. At work, my focus sharpened. I didn't drag exhaustion into each shift. I wasn't carrying resentment or confusion. Instead, I walked in knowing that every effort was for my own future. One afternoon, my supervisor asked if I would be interested in joining a company-funded certification program. It could open doors for leadership roles, she said. Leadership. No one had ever used that word with me before. I said yes. The coursework wasn't easy. I spent nights at the dining table reading, taking notes, asking questions. Eli dropped off snacks and sometimes sat across from me, quietly working on his laptop. He never hovered, never pushed. He just existed near me like a steady anchor. Months passed. One day, after a weekly meeting, the regional manager called me into her office. "You have a calm way of seeing solutions," she said. "We'd like to offer you a department lead position." My breath caught. A title, a raise, a team. I accepted. More responsibilities came, but this time they were mine by choice, not forced on me. My paycheck grew, and so did my confidence. I continued saving until one morning, I found a listing for a one-bedroom apartment near a park. Light poured through the windows in the photos. It looked peaceful. I signed the lease. When I moved in, Eli carried the last box up the stairs and set it gently on the new living room floor. "You built this," he said. And he was right. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was becoming. I stood in the center of my own space, keys hanging on the counter, sunlight warming the walls. For the first time, I felt like I belonged to myself. It was a quiet Saturday morning in my new place. Sunlight came through the blinds, warming the kitchen floor. I had just poured a cup of tea when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my mother's number. I froze for a moment, wondering why she would be calling after so many months of silence. When I answered, all I heard was panic. "Rowan, you need to come here right now." My heartbeat quickened. "What happened?" "Nessa, your sister. There's been an accident," she rushed out. Her voice shook, but there was something else beneath it, expectation. I steadied my voice. "Is she hurt?" She's fine, Mom said quickly. "But your car, is ruined." I gripped the counter edge. My old car. The one I once left in their driveway because they insisted Nessa needed it more. I had walked away from that car the day I left. I didn't want the ties attached to it. Still, hearing it was gone created a strange ache, like the last piece of my past had burned down without warning. Before I could ask anything else, Dad grabbed the phone. "The police want to speak with the owner," he snapped. "The car is in your name. The insurance isn't active. You need to get down to the station and explain." "Insurance." I closed my eyes. When I left that house, I stopped paying anything connected to them, including that policy. I had emailed the insurance company months ago and removed payment authorization. It felt final, like taking back control of something that had been taken from me for years. Dad continued, voice rising. "They're issuing tickets. There will be fees. You need to handle this." The demand hit me like a flash of déjà vu. Same tone, same entitlement, same assumption that my life existed to clean up their mistakes. "No," I said quietly. There was a long pause, like they didn't understand the meaning of that tiny word. Dad's voice sharpened. "This isn't a request. I don't own that responsibility anymore," I replied. "You gave the car to Nessa. She drove it. She can deal with the consequences." "She's upset," Mom cried out. "She's terrified of legal trouble." My chest tightened, not from guilt, but from realization. They never cared about my fear. Only hers. Dad growled. "You think you can walk away from your family? You owe us loyalty." I stared at the window, watching the leaves outside sway gently. In that moment, I understood something very clearly. Loyalty without respect is just control disguised as love. "I don't owe you a life where I clean up messes I didn't create," I said. "You wanted me gone. Now live with that." Nessa's voice suddenly chimed in the background, shouting, "You're heartless." I didn't raise my voice. "I finally learned how to choose myself," I whispered. Then I ended the call. The silence afterward felt different, not empty. Free. I set my phone down and took another sip of tea. For the first time, their chaos wasn't mine to carry. The knock on my door sounded like pounding thunder. 3 steady hits, loud, insistent, almost desperate. I froze mid-sip of my tea. I wasn't expecting anyone. Eli was at work, and I rarely had visitors. Something in the air felt off, tight, tense, full of an urgency I hadn't felt in months. When I opened the door, I saw them. My parents. Nessa stood slightly behind them, arms crossed, her expression stiff. Their clothes looked worn. My father's shirt was wrinkled. My mother's hair wasn't brushed, and her face carried a kind of exhaustion I'd never seen on her. I didn't invite them in. My mother spoke first. "We need you to come home." Home. The word sounded foreign. "We're having a difficult time," she continued. "The bills are behind. They shut off the electricity yesterday. We can't keep up anymore. We need you to start contributing again." My father stepped forward. "This isn't a request." I held my breath. My apartment, small, tidy, and finally mine, felt like a shield behind me. Warm, stable, independent. I thought of the nights I studied for certifications, the shifts I took to build savings, the freedom of waking up and knowing I was responsible only for myself. My mother clutched her purse tighter. "Your sister is working, but it's not enough." So Nessa finally got a job. Her eyes flicked away from mine, jaw clenched like the effort disgusted her. "We can't afford groceries," my father added. "Water might be next." The words hit me, but not the way they wanted. For years, they leaned on me and called it love. For years, I was the plan, until I stopped funding their lifestyle. I kept my tone calm. "You told me to leave. Remember?" My father bristled. "Things changed." "No," I said. They finally revealed what they always were. They demanded explanations. They blamed insurance bills, fees, parking fines, anything except their choices. Nessa suddenly exploded. "You could fix this in one day. One paycheck. Why are you being selfish?" "Selfish." I studied her face. The entitlement wasn't even hidden. It was worn like a badge. She still believed the world, my world, should revolve around her. "I'm not responsible for the consequences of your decisions," I answered. My mother's voice cracked. "We're your family. Family doesn't mean I subsidize your problems every time you create them." They shifted from anger to pleading. They asked me to move back in, temporarily, they claimed, just until they could stabilize. I knew what that meant. Years would pass and nothing would change. Nessa scoffed. "You think you're better than us now." I looked at her without flinching. "No. I just stopped letting you drain me. Silence. Heavy final. I stepped back and gently closed the door between us. Their voices faded down the hallway. Inside, my apartment remained warm, steady, and full of the life I built. And for the first time in years, I felt no guilt, no regret, just peace. They didn't leave. I could hear their voices through the door, urgent whispers, shifting feet, the sound of frustration building. I stood completely still, waiting, hoping they would walk away. But then the knocking started again, softer this time, almost pleading. "Rowan," my mother called, voice trembling. "Please, just talk to us." I inhaled slowly, steadied myself, and opened the door only a few inches. My father's expression had changed. The anger from earlier was gone, replaced by something unfamiliar, fear. "We're begging you," he said. "You can't let us drown." He wasn't dramatic. He was desperate. Nessa stepped forward, her face twisted with disbelief. "I can't believe you're doing this. You're abandoning your own family." That word, abandoning, hung between us like a hook she expected me to catch. I kept my voice level. "I'm setting boundaries." Her nostrils flared. "You think you're above us now that you have your own place? You left, and everything fell apart." Those words struck something deep. They weren't upset that I was gone. They were upset that without me, they had to face the reality of managing their own life. "You used to help," Nessa continued, louder now. "That's what family does." "No," I said quietly. "That's what employees do." Their faces shifted at the same time, confusion, then offense. For the first time in my life, the truth sharpened into a clear and painful realization. They never wanted partnership. They wanted labor. They wanted someone to blame when things went wrong, someone to pay when bills piled up, someone to absorb consequences that weren't mine. "I was never treated like a daughter," I said. "Just a solution." My father shook his head. "You're overreacting." My hand tightened around the folder I'd brought with me from the kitchen counter. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me, blocking their view into my home. "I'm not here to fix anything," I said, handing my father the document. I handled my part. He took it, scanned the text, and his face drained of color. It was a formal statement filed with the authorities and insurance agency, detailing that although the car was registered in my name, I was not responsible for the damage or the costs. I had submitted proof, texts, timestamps, and signed permission slips showing that Nessa had full possession of the car and was solely responsible for its upkeep. Clean. Legal. Final. Nessa snatched the paper, her voice shaking. You protected yourself?" "Yes," I answered, "because I finally learned no one else here will." My mother reached for my arm. "We raised you. You owe us." I stepped back. "I don't owe you my life because you gave me one." Nessa's eyes filled with disbelief. "So that's it? You're cutting us off?" "No," I said, voice steady as steel. "I'm cutting myself free." I turned and walked inside. This time, I locked the door, and I didn't look back. The day I signed the papers for my first home, sunlight streamed through the front windows like it had been waiting for me. The walls were bare, the floor smelled faintly of fresh polish, and the air felt lighter than anything I had breathed in years. I stepped inside, set my keys on the counter, and turned slowly, letting the space settle around me. This was mine. Every corner, every square foot belonged to me. I could arrange it, fill it, live in it without anyone dictating what I should do or how I should feel. Boxes waited in neat stacks along the walls, but for a moment I didn't care about unpacking. I just stood there, letting the quiet wrap around me. There were no accusations, no demands, no guilt to pull me under. Just peace. Real, deep, solid peace. Later that afternoon, I was arranging a small shelf when my phone buzzed. A message popped up. It was from my mother. I stared at it, hand hovering over the screen. The words made my chest tighten in the strangest mix of pity and satisfaction. "We wish you were still part of this family." I leaned against the doorframe, reading it over and over. For so long, they had defined what family meant, my role, my duties, my sacrifices. And for so long, I had let it control me. Now, though, I realized something they never could see. I had already taken my place in the world. I had already chosen my life. A smile spread slowly across my face. I whispered to the empty room, softly enough that only I could hear. "I always was. You just never treated me like it." I sat on the edge of the sofa, looking out the window at the small garden space I had planted. The flowers hadn't grown yet, but even the soil alone felt full of possibility. I realized revenge wasn't about retaliation. It wasn't about proving them wrong in dramatic ways or making them feel the pain they inflicted. Revenge was simpler. It was building something they could never take away. A life of my own making. A life where I didn't have to justify myself, apologize for wanting more, or bear the weight of their choices. It was waking up and knowing that every morning belonged to me, not to the expectations of others. I picked up a small box of books I had brought from my apartment. Each one had been chosen carefully, as if I were curating a future that belonged to me alone. I placed it on the shelf, adjusting it so it fit perfectly. And in that quiet, sunlit room, I felt the last weight fall from my shoulders. I was free. Finally, completely, entirely free. And that, I realized, was the most perfect revenge of all. Do you think I did the right thing by walking away from my family, or should I have tried to give them another chance? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. If you want more stories like this, subscribe and hit the notification bell.